Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Can someone just confirm and then we'll start the session? Am I audible? Can anyone just confirm on the chat? I have just enabled the chat as well. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So, good afternoon, partners, and welcome to the session on the new mutual fund portfolio review format and the financial calculator which we've created. I'll cover these two things. Before that, just let me introduce myself. So, I am Pratik Jain, and I head the products for the digital wealth business of Anand Rathi. It's been almost 8 years working with Anand Rathi, and I have total almost 18 years of WorkX. So specific topic partners for today was the new mutual fund review format. So what I would do is I'll cover the review format first, and then we can have Q&A session for that, and then I'll take you through the financial calculator which we've created. That is more specific to the goals. I think that was a request which we received from partners only. So we've created a calculator, and how these two things can basically help you in getting more businesses and help you actually get more AUM. I think so. That's the overall thought process. That's why these all review formats have been created so that we are able to actually help the client also take the right decision. So now, first, I think so. Before taking you through the review, we had created some data points on how the review formats have worked for us, how the review formats have worked for our partners as well. So I'll just give you a gist on that. That why doing portfolio reviews will actually help you create or grow your AUM. How this has helped our partners in the past. Are we doing optimum? Can we do more? Of course, we can do more. But I thought I'll just reiterate that point, and then I'll take you through the new format as well. And then we'll break for questions. So just let me share my screen. I hope the screen is visible. So this was one data point which we had actually shared in Shikhar. I thought I'll just reiterate that data point because why portfolio review is critical. So we've been actually saying that portfolio review is something which we are also pushing the partners to do portfolio reviews, how multiple portfolio reviews have helped. So I'll just give you a gist of how is this strategy works or not. Is the partner able to get more AUM? पार्टनर को ज्यादा AUM आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा है? तो ये एक्टिविटी करके आपको फायदा हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, उसके लिए एक डेटा पॉइंट शेयर करना था which we had actually done for last year. So last year we did approximately 1260 portfolio reviews, right? Number of partners were 193. So on an average, a 6.5 portfolio review was done by per partner per year. Now, out of 193, we had 105 partners who actually got conversion. So 193 में से 105 पार्टनर को कन्वर्जन मिला था. 80 आई थिंक सो 88 पार्टनर्स कुडंट कन्वर्ट. जो 105 ने जो कन्वर्ट किए उन्होंने मिनिमम 10 पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू किए थे. So on an average for the entire partner pool put together was 6.5. But the ones who got conversion, they did 10 portfolio reviews. The Shikhar qualifiers last year did 16 portfolio reviews. So that's where the number increased, the conversion ratio increased. That's the first part. Overall clients converted out of 1257 was 435. So 35% clients converted. 65% there is still an opportunity where we can again go back to the client. We can tell him, we can push him, right? And again, show him the opportunity that how his portfolio is doing vis-a-vis our portfolio and how he can improvise. That's the first part. The Shikhar qualifiers, the ones who qualified and had done more than 3 crores last year, had a conversion of 46%. So they had a higher conversion in the portfolio review. Still, there was opportunity of 54%. The overall money mobilized was 45%, right? So 180 crores was mobilized. 45% of the overall portfolio value which was reviewed got converted. 55% is still an opportunity. average AUM which we got from the client who got converted was 41 lakhs, and 50 lakhs was the one which was yet to be converted. So what matrix we gave to all partners for getting more AUM and easily qualifying for the base Shikhar slab was कि सर आप 2 पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू लाते हो अगर हर महीने के, मतलब अगर आप 24 पोर्टफोलियो लाते हो तो यू कैन इजीली मैनेज 4 crores mobilization in a year. That's the bare minimum. Only 24 portfolios, 2 portfolio reviews per month. We've taken a conversion also of 45%. We've not taken 100% conversion कि हर पार्टनर अब जो भी क्लाइंट लाओगे वो कन्वर्ट होगा. The answer is no. I'm taking a 45% conversion which we got last year. It is not something which I've just taken the best partner. We've got 45% conversion for all the Shikhar qualifiers. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit is you have an opportunity to do COB, which is change of broker. So पार्ट अगर क्लाइंट का अगर से 1 करोड़ का पोर्टफोलियो है उसमें से अगर मुझे 40 lakhs आ रहा है तो बैलेंस 60 lakhs इज समथिंग विच इज स्टिल एन अपॉर्चुनिटी विच द क्लाइंट सेज बॉस ये अभी मत मूव करते हैं, ये बाद में करते हैं, यहाँ पे टैक्स का लायबिलिटी आ जाएगा. ठीक है सर, तो एटलीस्ट वी कैन डू अ चेंज ऑफ ब्रोकर. हम चेंज ऑफ ब्रोकर करके मूव कर लेते हैं. नाउ वी ऑल नो दैट आफ्टर 6 months यू गेट द ट्रेल कमीशन ऑल्सो ऑन सीओबी. सो अनदर 5 crore. सो योर नेक्स्ट ईयर और 6 months के बाद वाला रेवेन्यू इज ऑल्सो सॉर्टेड. You have more AUM coming in. So I think so. ये portfolio review solves multiple purposes. Partners, the ones who focus, of course, are benefiting, but not everyone is actually focusing on that. Getting portfolio reviews is something which is very easy. Client को सिर्फ ये बोलना है कि सर आपका portfolio तो होगा ही कहीं ना कहीं. We generate a cash statement and we get the portfolio. You review it, you analyze it, and you actually have a meeting, detailed meeting with him, and then you can explain that. So I'll explain what the portfolio review looks like right now. We've tried to enhance that as well based on some feedbacks from the partners also. So objective is clear, how we can actually help the client take a better decision and how you can actually build your AUM through this major activity, which is portfolio review. And I'm asking just 2 portfolio reviews per month. Only 2 portfolios reviews per month, and you can actually mobilize the 4 crore AUM and another 5 crore of COB opportunity which is there. So this is the overall opportunity which is there in the portfolio reviews. Partners, this is something which I wanted to highlight कि यार ये activity क्यों important है. ये activity अगर diligently हम अगर करते हैं, 2 portfolio review लाना is not something which is difficult. I think so. We all have clients, probably clients in mutual funds doing through us, or but they would have mutual fund investments outside as well, or there would be clients in insurance जहाँ के आप mutual fund नहीं manage कर रहे हो तो आप उनका mutual fund का portfolio ला सकते हो. So opportunity, I think so, is huge. Getting 2 portfolio reviews per month is something which I think so everyone can manage. It is not a difficult task as well, right? And COB is another opportunity which we can definitely explore. I hope the screen was visible when I was talking, right? I just got a message on Zoom. Yes. So,
Yes.
so now just I'll run you through the new format, partners. So, which is the new mutual fund portfolio review format. So I think so that would help on what we actually show to the client. So we actually received a few feedbacks as well, and we made some changes. We've incorporated the health card as well in the portfolio review. So just one review format which is there, which is going to you, and how you can use this to actually have an actionable also, and how you can convince the client to get more money is. I think so. That was the thought process with which we actually made some changes in the review format, which can help you get more monies, right? So the first one is we've set the agenda for the meeting. I think so ये एक चीज क्रिटिकल हो जाती है, सो दैट स्ट्रक्चर हो जाता है कोई भी मीटिंग के लिए कि सर हम क्या कवर करने वाले हैं. सो द क्लाइंट ऑल्सो नोज दैट बॉस व्हाट आर यू गोइंग टू कवर इन द नेक्स्ट हाफ एन आवर, व्हाट आर यू गोइंग टू शो मी, आप मुझे क्या बताने वाले हो मेरे ही पोर्टफोलियो के बारे में, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई वी सेट द एजेंडा कि we'll sir of course look at the investment objective, what generally a investor's objective is before investing. That's the first part. The second is we'll give you a snapshot of your portfolio, that what's your portfolio is across various categories, various schemes, various allocations, right? What's your standard deviation? Then the portfolio performance and comparison with AR model portfolio NFT. So this is, of course, I'll explain more in detail, but this is the actual performance of what the client's portfolio is vis-a-vis if would have invested with us and Nifty. Then the journey of the Wealth Plus portfolio for last 6 years. So we show him कि सर ये तो आपके पोर्टफोलियो के साथ हुआ है, ये हमारे पोर्टफोलियो में लास्ट 6 साल में क्या जर्नी रही है. That is something which we want to show. And the last one is, of course, the market cap and sectoral allocation and the AMC diversification. That's the broad agenda, sir, which we will going to cover over the next half an hour. कि सर हम ये 5 चीजें कवर करेंगे. So आपको ये चीजें समझ में आएगी आपके पोर्टफोलियो के बारे में. Then we set the investment objective. So this is similar to what we actually speak when we speak about the Wealth Plus proposition. Ki sir, what do you expect from your investments? You expect consistent long-term returns, right? Which beats HNI inflation of 10%, targeting a 12 to 15% returns per annum. That's what we are targeting. More consistent returns rather than lumpy returns. That's the first part. Beating HNI inflation of 10%. That's the first objective which most clients have. The second one is that there should be resilience during market volatility. It means that there's a strong potential for returns even when the markets are turbulent, and markets will be turbulent, right? Last 8 महीना देखे तो there have been periods where the markets corrected sharply. There have been periods when the markets have risen also. Last 1-1.5 महीने से markets range में है. So market will be volatile due to XYZ reasons. But if we can have something in our portfolio, or our portfolio is something which is much more resilient or much have a higher probability of delivering returns, that's what the objective is. The third one is liquidity, that whenever you want money, you get the money. So that's the third part, that liquidity honi chahiye portfolio. And the fourth one is capital protection. So minimal loss of risk capital in the medium term. That's where the plan B comes in, that it protects your capital up to a certain level. So giving you a cushion and it accelerates your returns. So these are the expectations which generally a client has when he does investments, and even he should have these objectives only. Other than that, I think so 20% or 30% returns is something which we actually go and tell the client as well, right? So एक साल में हो सकता है, but consistently नहीं हो सकता. So this is what he expects from his investments. Now, why he should review the portfolio on a periodic basis. Also, we've given some highlights on this as well. So what this would do is basically it will help you set the expectations right with the client. कि सर रिव्यू क्यों करना चाहिए? अगर आपका existing advisor है जो रिव्यू ही नहीं कर रहा है, so sir then there is a problem, right? Because you don't know what is happening. तो ये चीज सर जरूरी है. It is not a one time process, it's a continuous process that you need to review your portfolio. That's where we come into the picture, where we have a model portfolio जहां पे वो मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो का रिव्यू हर साल होता ही है. And if there are any changes, we will come and make those changes with you. Which doesn't happen with the client, right? We've seen a lot of clients जहां पे वो 5 साल 6 साल से सेम स्कीम लेके बैठे हैं, वो चल रही है कि नहीं चल रही है वो चेक भी नहीं करता. So why you should do the review? So we've highlighted 6 major points. One is changing market conditions, economic cycles change, interest rates change, performance change, categories ka performance, global events, multiple things impact fund performance, right? So like we gave an example that 2020 large cap performed, 21-22 mid caps performed. So this rebalancing is something which is more critical because this will capture these events. Sir, क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं हो रहा है? Like we made the changes in 23-24 where we increased allocation in small cap from 15% to 30%, right? That was based on certain data points. If we don't do these changes, then you will never be able to capture those things, right? Or reduce the allocation in small cap last year. So these are things which, of course, market conditions change. So you make a decision on that, but sir, decision तो लेना पड़ेगा, कोई portfolio review तो करना पड़ेगा. That's the first part. Second is underperformance. So on an average, 35% of the actively managed funds underperform, which we've also said, right, in our selection process. यार 35% तो underperform करते हैं. मैं अगर ये underperformance percentage कम करके 35 का अगर 20 कर सकता तो that's my value add. That's what I'm trying to do. तो सर अगर आपका भी अगर कोई जनरल पोर्टफोलियो होगा जहां पे आपने कोई भी स्कीम्स ली होगी 700 में से इक्विटी की, तो 35% आपकी कोई ना कोई स्कीम, 10 अगर स्कीम लोगी आपने, अगर स्कीम ली होगी 700 में से 10 में से सर 3, 3.5 या 4 स्कीम तो आपकी अंडर परफॉर्म कर रही होगी. नाउ हाउ डू यू मेक दोज चेंजेस? हाउ डू यू असेस दैट? दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज क्रिटिकल. दैट्स व्हाई वी से दैट पीरियोडिक रिव्यू इज मस्ट. अलाइनमेंट विद फाइनेंशियल गोल्स, के यार कुछ गोल के लिए मैंने अगर कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट किया था तो इज इट ऑन ट्रैक, ये सही चल रहा है नहीं चल रहा है, मुझे कुछ चेंजेस करने चाहिए नहीं चाहिए, मेरे फाइनेंशियल गोल्स चेंज हो गए या नहीं हो गए. दैट्स आल्सो रिक्वायर्स एडजस्टमेंट, सो यू नीड टू कीप अ ट्रैक ऑन दैट. फोर्थ इज एसेट एलोकेशन ड्रिफ्ट, कि यार मार्केट में इक्विटी और डेट का अगर मेरा कोई रेशियो है, बिकॉज वी से राइट दैट ओवरऑल बैलेंस शीट पे आपका एलोकेशन सेट होना चाहिए. तो वो बैलेंस शीट पे सपोज आई एम मोर कंफर्टेबल विद 70-30 एंड ड्यू टू equity has moved from 70 to 75. So then I need to make that change, or I need to understand that yeah, what risk I have by having an allocation of 75-25. So this is critical, right? अगर आप नहीं देख रहे हो, so then there is a problem. So that's why you should do a periodic review. टैक्स ऑप्टिमाइजेशन की सर हर साल 1.25 लाख का जो टैक्स इक्विटी का जो गेन्स है जो टैक्स फ्री है, दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच वी कैन यूटिलाइज, तो यू सेव ऑन टैक्सेस एज वेल, राइट? एंड द लास्ट वन, अगर कोई रेगुलेटरी चेंज है, कोई फंड स्पेसिफिक चेंज है, सो देन दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच वी नीड टू बी अपडेटेड विद. इफ यू डोंट डू दिस पीरियोडिक रिव्यू, एंड अगर आप ब्लाइंडली अगर इन्वेस्ट करके आप 5 साल 7 साल वही इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हो, और अगर आपका जो एडवाइजर है वो आपको कुछ चेंजेस नहीं बता रहा है, और नए क्लाइंट्स को नए फंड्स दे रहा है, और जूने क्लाइंट्स के नहीं चेंज कर रहा है, देन देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम, राइट? So by doing this, you're setting the expectation right with the client that why you need to do this on a periodic basis, and this is what you will get when you actually move your portfolio with Anand, right? So that's the third one. The fourth one, the next slide, is where we've taken the health card here and the parameters which we've considered. So this is a short summary of the health card only. That सर हमने क्या पैरामीटर्स देखे हैं टू रिव्यू द पोर्टफोलियो. सो फर्स्ट 3 मेजर पैरामीटर्स पे हमने इसको रिव्यू किया है. फर्स्ट वन इज द एसेट एलोकेशन, कि सर आपका एसेट एलोकेशन क्या है, 60%, म्यूचुअल फंड्स में क्या है, 60-80 होना चाहिए, 60 to 80% होना चाहिए इन इक्विटी. सर इफ यू हैव मोर देन 50-60% इन डेट, then your asset allocation is not right. Then what's your allocation in large cap, mid cap, small cap stocks? So that's 55, 23 and 22. Then allocation in non-recommended categories, right? So we've mentioned that. So ideally, sir, zero hona chahiye. But if you have that, then that's the first actionable you have. Then how do you construct the portfolio? So number of schemes kitni honi chahiye, sir? So we have 14. Scheme wise concentration kya hai, sir? तो 8 to 15% होना चाहिए. अगर ज्यादा है तो प्रॉब्लम है. AMC wise concentration kitna है? तो maximum 25% होना चाहिए. तो if you have more than that, then there's a problem because there are 47 AMCs. Schemes with inconsequential contribution 2% से कम ही होनी चाहिए. And backup plan B है कि नहीं? So that's where you can again highlight that why plan B is required. And the last one is of course standard deviation, कि सर आपके overall portfolio का risk क्या है. 5% below Nifty के range में है तो ठीक है सर. Our standard deviation is 9.33, which is almost 30% lower than Nifty. Right? So plan A, plan B क्यों चलता है? So that's the parameters which we've considered, and then we run him through the overall portfolio review, which is the first one is his overall schemes. So here we of course highlight, I think so we all have seen this. I'll run this through. कि सर large cap में तो this is a sample portfolio which we have taken. This is an actual portfolio which we had received. The investor had a lot of schemes. But this is what the portfolio was. So he had schemes in large cap, multi cap. So the ones which are highlighted in red are the ones which are less than 2% allocation. That's the first highlight. Then he had flexi cap, focus, large and mid cap, small cap. Then he has balanced funds also. So we've highlighted the category also in red. And I'll tell you why we've done this. Basically to highlight the actionables so that it's easier for you to actually push the client to make changes, right? So that's the first part. So यहाँ पे हमने बैलेंस फंड्स को हाईलाइट किया है, हाइब्रिड को हाईलाइट किया है, गोल्ड है, डिविडेंड यील्ड है, थीमेटिक है. These all categories, ELSS है, ETF, FOF. So we've highlighted schemes and those categories which we don't recommend, like the index funds, the balance funds, the thematic funds, the FOFs, right? The hybrid funds. All those categories which we don't recommend have been highlighted. So here in this portfolio snapshot मिल गया client को कि यार this client's portfolio value is approximately 1 crore 7 lakhs. 100% allocation है सर, आपका standard deviation 14.2 है. Now what is standard deviation is again we cover in the next slides, but एक snapshot मिल गया कि सर ये value है 100% portfolio और standard deviation is 14.2. Now number of schemes कितनी है सर? 107 स्कीम है. So over diversified है. 98 out of 107 schemes are less than 2% allocation. So that's the first actionable sir. कि सर ये अगर 2% के नीचे है अगर आपके ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो का एलोकेशन, तो ये स्कीम डबल भी हो गई तो भी कोई बड़ा इंपैक्ट नहीं आने वाला है आपके पोर्टफोलियो पे. तो अगर कोई क्लाइंट को हमको पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू करके अगर कुछ एक्शनेबल देना है तो दैट्स द फर्स्ट एक्शनेबल, कि सर ये 2% वाली स्कीम्स तो निकाल दो. So at least your portfolio is something which has schemes which can be easily tracked, monitored. ये इतनी schemes तो सर track कर ही नहीं पाओगे. So that's the first part. Then this client had almost 49% allocation in non-recommended categories. तो at least सर वो तो start करते हैं कि सर non-recommended categories तो निकलते हैं. Because we explain him the selection process in detail, right? So selection process detail में explain करने के बाद first action point which we can give from the first slide is sir दो चीजें हैं. One is कि सर नॉन रिकमेंडेड कैटेगरीज इज समथिंग विच यू कैन मूव एंड द 2% वाला एलोकेशन. हेलो. Yeah, am I audible? Yes, yes, yes. I don't know what happened, but yes. Let me share the screen again. Yes, so 49%. So that's the actionable highlight किया हुआ है. So see, we've also seen that most of the times क्या होता है ना, client is hesitant in moving the entire portfolio. पूरा पोर्टफोलियो मूव करने के लिए वो हेजिटेंट होता है, वो बोलता है नहीं, थोड़ा रेजिस्टेंस दिखाता है. सो सर एटलीस्ट ये वाला काम तो कर सकते हैं. देन बैलेंस वाला वी कैन पुश हिम फॉर सीओबी, बट एटलीस्ट ये वाला तो मूव करो सर. दैट्स द फर्स्ट पार्ट, राइट? ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर डिविडेंड, अगर कोई डिविडेंड स्कीम्स है तो वो भी हम मूव करवा सकते हैं, बिकॉज डिविडेंड स्कीम्स टैक्सेशन का कोई बेनिफिट रहा नहीं. सो दैट्स आल्सो एन एक्शनेबल व्हिच यू कैन हाईलाइट. बट दीज आर द फर्स्ट पार्ट. ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू में स्नैपशॉट दो, allocation batao, standard deviation batao, and non-recommended category. That's the first thing, right? Then what are we explaining? We are explaining the selection process. I'll not cover the selection process in detail, but brief. Why we have added this is because this will establish that boss why you should move and have a portfolio which is being monitored, tracked. Model portfolio क्यों होना चाहिए? There should be some process behind it. So as I said, right, 700 schemes, 25 स्कीम्स कंप्लीटेड 25 इयर्स. सो उसमें से सर बेस्ट परफॉर्मिंग स्कीम ने 23% दिया है, एवरेज ने 15 दिया है, वर्स्ट परफॉर्मिंग स्कीम ने 7% दिया है. सो म्यूचुअल फंड तो सही है, बट नॉट एवरी म्यूचुअल फंड इज राइट. यू नीड टू हैव अ सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस इन प्लेस, राइट? दैट्स द फर्स्ट पार्ट. Now we have a 150 member plus team which is doing this research on mutual funds and structured products, which has an aim of delivering an alpha of 2 to 3% over and above Nifty in the long term. That's the thought process. Now उसके लिए हम क्या करते हैं सर? तो हम तीन चीजें करते हैं सर. फर्स्ट तो हम क्या सिलेक्ट करते हैं कि यार व्हाट शुड बी द एलोकेशन इन लार्ज कैप, मिड कैप एंड स्मॉल कैप स्टॉक्स. सो सर करंट ईयर एलोकेशन इज 55% is in large cap, 23 is in mid cap, 22 is in small cap. Why? Based on the future potential of the markets to deliver. That's why this allocation was there. Last year the allocation was 50% large cap, 30% mid small cap and 20% mid cap. So this keeps on changing based on the potential. Then sir, we look at various categories. So categories में से कौन सी categories हम नहीं recommend करते? तो हम thematic नहीं करते, हम balance funds नहीं करते, हम index funds नहीं करते. After that, we have some basic hygiene filters of the fund. The AMC should have minimum 3,000 crores of equity AUM. So smaller AMCs are moved out. The scheme should have minimum 1,000 crores of AUM. So छोटी schemes भी निकल जाती हैं. And the third one is the scheme should have minimum 3 years track record. So we don't recommend any NFOs as well. After that, sir, we look at multiple qualitative and quantitative filters. So sir, 101 statistical parameters है जिससे हम scheme को evaluate कर सकते हैं. We have shortlisted 10 parameters which have a very high correlation with future returns, right? Based on these top 10 parameters, we shortlist schemes which are in the top 2 quartile across those 10 parameters. उसके बाद सर क्वालिटेटिव फिल्टर्स लगते हैं, where there is an investment committee of the CEO, the deputy CEO, the chief economist, the product head, the mutual fund head. They meet the fund house and the fund manager. They have a discussion how comfortable the fund manager is in delivering that alpha of 2 to 3%, right? How big his team is. Based on that, the final 14 scheme model portfolio is shortlisted. इस पे सर ट्रैकिंग होती है, मॉनिटरिंग होती है, and if there are any changes required in this, we will come and make these changes. Otherwise, the annual change is there. Annual review happens every 1 year and 3 months. So 1.25 साल में हर review होता है. So currently the review will start in the month of June, July, and by September is when we should have the new model portfolio in place. So this is a process, sir. ये कोई ad hoc नहीं है, ये हर साल का process है. And this is something which we do. हम पूछ सकते हैं पार्टनर्स, हम क्लाइंट्स को पूछ सकते हैं, सर आपका कोई सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस है क्या ये पोर्टफोलियो बनाने के लिए? मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स द क्लाइंट विल नॉट हैव दैट. So then you make him understand that why selection is critical. Then you also explain him standard deviation, sir. कि standard deviation क्या है, sir? Standard deviation is basically a risk measure. So sir, risk जो है ना वो manage हो सकता है. We can manage risk. Returns can be maximized. Risk is something which can be managed. तो मैनेज करने के लिए सर पहले तो मेजर करना पड़ेगा. सो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स द इंडस्ट्री स्पीक्स इन इंग्लिश विच इज स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन. सर आपका रिस्क, दिस इज हाई रिस्क प्रोडक्ट, दिस इज लो रिस्क प्रोडक्ट. But sir, that is something which doesn't give me information, right? Because what might be high risk for you might be low risk for me. So we can actually calculate risk, which is standard deviation. Standard deviation basically क्या बताता है कि यार पोर्टफोलियो कितना स्विंग हो सकता है. So like in this case, we've just given an example of someone, a person who's going to office. So उसके 10 दिन का हमने observations लिए थे. तो फर्स्ट डे वो 35 मिनट्स में पहुंचा, कभी 30 मिनट में पहुंचा, कभी 20 मिनट में पहुंचा. ऑन एन एवरेज वो 10 दिन में 30 मिनट्स में पहुंचता है ऑफिस, राइट? बट नॉट एवरी डे ही रीचेस इन 30 मिनट्स. तो एवरेज एक्सपेक्टेशन इज 30 मिनट्स, राइट? बट इसका अगर स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन निकालते हैं तो इसका स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन आया था 6 मिनट्स. मींस 30 + 6, 30 - 6. उसकी रेंज है कि यार वो 24 से 36 मिनट में ऑफिस पहुंच सकता है. सो जितना कम होगा स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन उतना ही उसकी पोर्टफोलियो की स्विंग कम होगी. मतलब उसकी टाइम जो है 29 to 31, अगर 1 मिनट का स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन होता तो आइडियल सिनेरियो होता ना कि 29 to 31 मिनट्स ही रीचेस ऑफिस. यही अगर 15 मिनट होता तो यार 15 and 45, दैट्स अ ह्यूज डिविएशन. सो जितना स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन कम होगा, that is much more beneficial. Your portfolio will deviate lesser from your expected outcome. That's why you always measure risk in numbers and not in subjective terms. Your portfolio standard deviation is 14%, sir, right? तो 14% is high low, वो तो हम आपको आगे स्लाइड्स में बता सकते हैं. But this is what standard deviation is. See partners, short में you can explain these slides. Don't get into much more detail. Probably I have explained in more detail. बट एटलीस्ट एक्सप्लेन द क्रक्स कि सर ये रिस्क क्यों देखना चाहिए और नंबर्स में क्यों देखना चाहिए. आई थिंक सो दैट इज क्रिटिकल. इन दी अर्लियर स्लाइड आल्सो गिव हिम द इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ व्हाई अ सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस इज क्रिटिकल, बिकॉज देन ओनली ही विल अंडरस्टैंड एंड ही विल वैल्यू मोर. अदरवाइज तो ठीक है यार स्कीम चल रही है, कोई भी स्कीम ले लेंगे हो जाएगा, वैसा नहीं होता है काम, राइट? सो एक्सप्लेन द जिस्ट. आई थिंक सो दैट इज द क्रिटिकल पार्ट. Then of course the distributor allocation, this is something which we've been added कि सर आपका जो पोर्टफोलियो है वो किस किस डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के पास है, मतलब किस एआरएन में है, कितना वैल्यू है, क्या एलोकेशन है. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स द क्लाइंट डजंट नो कि यार इतनी जगह पे इन्वेस्ट किया है. मतलब काफी लोगों के साथ कभी कभी क्लाइंट्स इन्वेस्ट कर लेते हैं बेस्ड ऑन रिलेशन और बेस्ड ऑन सम obligations also, they do invest, right? So this is the overall allocation. So this helps him also to understand कि हाँ यार किन किन लोगों के पास मेरा पैसा किसके थ्रू इन्वेस्टेड है. Then this is the new slide which we've added. We had this earlier, it stopped in between, but we've added this again. Is the XIRR of the portfolio of the client, actual XIRR. So यहाँ पे इसीलिए the cash statement is required, partners. अगर आप cash statement दोगे तभी ये slide मिलेगी, because then we can calculate based on the transactions which the client has, right? So here what we've done is based on the transaction statement, मतलब cash से जो transactions आते हैं, we've considered all those transactions, right? And calculated his XIRR कि यार client ने जो investments किए across the last, यहाँ पे जैसे 11 साल का डेटा है. So based on that transaction, sir, your XIRR, that is CAGR returns per annum returns, is 7.18%. द सेम यहाँ पे हमने वही लिया है कि सर जिस दिन आपने इन्वेस्ट किया था आपके जो भी स्कीम्स में, अगर आपने उसी तारीख पे अगर हमारे वेल्थ पोर्टफोलियो म्यूचुअल फंड पोर्टफोलियो में डाला होता, राइट, व्हाट वुड हैव बीन द वैल्यू टुडे एंड व्हाट वुड हैव बीन द रिटर्न्स. सो इन दिस केस क्लाइंट ने जो इन्वेस्टमेंट किए थे उसका रिटर्न्स वाज 7%. हमारे साथ मतलब हमारे वेल्थ पोर्टफोलियो में अगर उसने इन्वेस्ट किया होता, जो रोलिंग, मतलब हमने हर साल जो चेंजेस किए, वी हैव कंसीडर्ड दैट एज वेल, तो his portfolio returns would have been 16%. means his value instead of 1 crore would have been 1.7 crores. तो 69 lakhs का एडिशनल वैल्यू क्रिएट होता, 9% का हमने अल्फा डिलीवर किया है. दैट्स द फर्स्ट हाईलाइट विच वी नीड टू एक्सप्लेन. सेकंड, वेल्थ प्लस में सर अगर डाला होता आपने, विच इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ म्यूचुअल फंड्स एंड स्ट्रक्चर प्रोडक्ट्स इन अ 60-40 कॉम्बिनेशन, योर रिटर्न वुड हैव बीन 15.25. 1.63 का वैल्यू होता था, 8% का अल्फा है, 61 lakhs का अल्फा है, विच इज इन न्यूमेरिक टर्म्स. द स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन इज 10.6. So standard deviation will be almost 35% lower than what your existing portfolio is with an alpha of 8%. तो आपने रिस्क भी ज्यादा लिया है सर, रिटर्न्स भी कम है. हमारे साथ सर आप आते तो आपका रिटर्न्स भी ज्यादा होता, रिस्क भी ऑलमोस्ट 40%, 35% कम होता. दिस इज समथिंग विच वी हैव टू हाईलाइट. अनदर डेटा पॉइंट विच वी गिवन इज निफ्टी, कि सर आपके पोर्टफोलियो ने निफ्टी को भी बीट नहीं किया है. निफ्टी हैज डिलीवर्ड 12.7, तो आपकी वैल्यू 1.4 crores होती थी, and standard deviation would have been lesser. So you have underperformed Nifty as well. So this is actual data. This is not any assumptions. ये based on the transaction statement, जो cash से transactions आते हैं, वो transaction के basis पे लिया है. We need the cash statement partners for this, because without the cash statement, we will not be able to do this. It's a manual process. This is not something which is automated. It's a manual process which is being done. तो इसी के लिए हमको कैश स्टेटमेंट लगेगा. अगर कैश नहीं होगा तो देन इट वुड नॉट बी पॉसिबल. बट एक्सप्लेन दिस स्लाइड टू द क्लाइंट्स. देयर विल बी सम केसेस जहां पे शायद अल्फा 1% का ही होगा, बट 1% ओवर 10 years is a huge amount. So don't just डिस्काउंट के यार 1% का ही अल्फा है. सर 1% का अल्फा पर एनम इज ह्यूज, राइट? 25 साल में तो वैल्यू डबल हो जाती है. So 1%, 2% also difference is huge. You can push the client to actually make changes rather than having it कि नहीं सर आपका पोर्टफोलियो ठीक कर रहा है. क्यों ठीक कर रहा है सर? अगर आपके पास सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस नहीं है, आपके पास रिव्यू फॉर्मेट्स नहीं है, आप रिव्यू कर नहीं रहे हो, आपने कोई चेंजेस नहीं किए हैं, then your portfolio is not doing good by choice, it is doing good by chance, and there can be mishaps. At least sir, with the process in place, that will not happen. So 1%, 0.5%, even if the client's portfolio is doing better, I think so still there are opportunities which we can push the client. You should ask these questions to the client. Don't be defensive कि सिर्फ रिटर्न्स देख के क्लाइंट चेंज हो जाता था. तो अपने पास बहुत ऐसे पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यूज है जहां पे 5-6-7% का अल्फा है, बट स्टिल द क्लाइंट हैज नॉट कन्वर्टेड. सो इट इज नॉट, so don't be defensive on the returns, partners. This is something which I wanted to highlight. Focus on the process. आप process पे focus करोगे तो then you will get money. Even if the client's portfolio is doing better, still there would be something which the client's portfolio is not doing right? And we have a selection process in place. You can explain that to the client. Always the processes are something which is, I think so you should harp more on. Of course, returns जो है वो दिख रहे हैं तो it adds value. ऐसा नहीं है, but focus more on the process. I think so that's where you'll be able to get more money on a consistent basis from the client, right? So this is one. Of course, our efficiency portfolio ratio for the Wealth Plus portfolio is 1.7. So in this next slides, what we've done is we've looked at all the schemes, and यहाँ पे हमने allocation डाला है, 3 year returns डाले हैं, standard deviation डाला है और efficiency ratio highlight किया है. So यहाँ पे हमने वो schemes के efficiency ratio highlight किए हैं जो हमारे Wealth Plus portfolio से कम है, which is 1.7 से less in this case. So that's why it is highlighted red. So this is again another actionable which you can push to the client कि सर आपके पोर्टफोलियो के रिटर्न्स देखे वो भी कम है. तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स फिर क्लाइंट बोलता है करना क्या है. तो सर फर्स्ट तो हम नॉन रिकमेंडेड कैटेगरीज से निकाल सकते हैं. सेकंड, हम 2% के नीचे वाले एलोकेशन से निकाल सकते हैं. थर्ड, सर जिस स्कीम का एफिशिएंसी रेशियो कम है हमारे मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो से, हम वो भी निकाल सकते हैं. सो दैट्स द थर्ड एक्शनेबल which you can push. So this is a more direct actionable, not a vague one कि सर नहीं इसमें से कुछ निकाल सकते हैं, नहीं ये सर 3 चीजें तो करते हैं. Then you move to the fourth part of moving the entire portfolio, doing a COB. बाकी के लिए बोल सकते हैं, so that the client also feels कि यार नहीं यार ये पूरा पोर्टफोलियो नहीं बेचने को बोल रहा है. There is also one more feedback which we got from the partners कि यार नहीं बेचता है वो पूरा पोर्टफोलियो. So at least if we can do these 3 actionables immediately, you still get 30 to 50% of the portfolio. Right, and the balance you can do a COB. So then it helps you build a pipeline in the next 6 months, 1 year also, because when we review it, आप COB वाला पोर्शन भी धीरे धीरे मूव करवा सकते हो इन द मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो, राइट? सो अगेन वही हाईलाइट किया है एफिशिएंसी रेशियो, जहां पे बेटर है वहां पे हमने नहीं हाईलाइट किया है. लार्ज मिड balance funds and value and thematic. Everything has been highlighted here, right? Then we move to the journey. So first part we did was the portfolio snapshot. The second part is we looked at the performance. Sir, हमने performance भी check किया है. Now, sir, if you look at the performance of us, so हमने sir 2019 से जो हमारे क्लाइंट की जो जर्नी रही है, तो उस जर्नी में सर मार्केट्स हैव बीन गुड, मार्केट्स हैव बीन बैड, मार्केट्स हैव बीन वेरी रेंज बाउंड, बेरिश, बुलिश, एवरीथिंग हैज बीन देयर, राइट? सो इन दिस, तो सर जिसने स्टार्ट किया द 14th फर्स्ट अप्रैल 19 से जो स्टार्ट किया था, सो 14 Jan 20 वाज द प्री पैंडेमिक हाई. उस टाइम पे सर फर्स्ट अप्रैल 19 टू 20th Jan 14 Jan 20 वेल्थ प्लस पोर्टफोलियो डिलीवर्ड 12.5, निफ्टी डिलीवर्ड 7.6. So flattish market में sir we were delivering double digit. Pandemic low, which was the lowest point, Nifty was down by 35% per annum from 1st April 2019. Our portfolio was down by -16. So bearish market में also sir we performed well. Why? Because of the plan B sir. So plan B क्यों होना चाहिए? यहाँ पे फिर से reiterate कर सकते हो कि sir what structure product does? It accelerates returns, it reduces your risk, it increases your probability, because market doesn't deliver in a linear way. Market delivers returns in where the markets can be bullish, markets can be bearish, market can be in a range. तो सिर्फ प्लान ए है तो सर हमारा सिर्फ पोर्टफोलियो बुलिश रेंज के लिए गेड है, उसकी प्रोबेबिलिटी 50% है. बैलेंस 50% के लिए इज वेयर यू ऐड प्लान बी सो दैट इट कैन वर्क इन ऑल मार्केट सिनेरियोज. सो प्री पैंडेमिक हाई जो क्रॉस किया था 9 नवंबर को, सो वेल्थ प्लस डिलीवर्ड 11%, निफ्टी डिलीवर्ड 4%. So that was what range bound market, bullish market, wealth plus delivered 19.7, nifty delivered 19.7. And this was 31st March 25. So we delivered 16.3 and Nifty delivered 12.4. So the objective is, sir, ki everywhere the wealth plus portfolio, the journey is much more smoother. That is what we want. That's why this has been added, which is a combination of plan A and plan B. Then the sector and market caps. So what is the current portfolio spread across various sectors? What is the market cap? So this client had a 64% in large cap, 20 in mid, 16 in small. So we have a 55, 23, 22, right? This is the number which we have. This is something which is tracked, sir. This is something, there is a logic behind why we have a 55, 23, 22. पूछ सकते हैं हम क्लाइंट को, सर व्हाट वाज योर लॉजिक इन हैविंग अ 64, 20 एंड 16? ही वुडंट हैव, बिकॉज उसने वैसा पोर्टफोलियो बनाया ही नहीं है कभी. He should understand this. So that's why I highlight this, the importance of having this 55, 23 and 22. And then the AMC allocations, sir, this is what we have. This client had allocation across almost 12, 13 AMCs. एक AMC में still top two AMCs में 50% है. So sir, AMC wise also diversification is not there. Why you are having this? You have AMC, मतलब यहाँ पे almost 7 AMCs है जहाँ पे 2% से कम allocation है, sir. Then what are we adding, sir? You don't get any benefit also by adding such small amounts in the AMC. उसकी स्टाइल से फायदा भी नहीं होगा सर अगर अच्छा कर रहा होगा तो. So ask these questions. See, that's when you will be able to manage the overall wealth and get the clients buying. नहीं तो अगर हम नहीं बताएंगे डिटेल में और ऊपर ऊपर से बताएंगे और सिर्फ रिटर्न्स पे फोकस करेंगे तो then I don't know how it works. Basically, our experience is that if you actually focus on the entire process, that's where the client will actually be more comfortable in giving you more amounts from this review. So that's the thought process. Then schemes not considered जहाँ पे नहीं complete हुआ है या हमारे पास data नहीं available है. So that's where we mention this. Of course, these are the reasons for the non-recommended categories, and that's the end of the portfolio review. So the points here, I'll just reiterate and then I'll open it for questions. So see, the portfolio review is, it will take half an hour to 45 minutes. So आप जब भी कोई client के पास जाते हो and you pitch him the initial wealth plus proposition, at the end there is a slide where we say that sir review कर लो portfolio. So review करने के लिए you generate the cash statement immediately from there, right? It's a simple process. You get the cash statement and set up the time with him कि सर हम अगले 2 दिन में या 3 दिन में सर आपके पास आके मिलते हैं and we will give you the detailed selection process in place कि सर ये आपका रिव्यू है, हम आपको ये बताएंगे, ये 4 चीजें दिखाएंगे. You can set the agenda there and then, or you can tell him, sir, let's fix up a meeting after 3 days and have this portfolio review in detail. Then in this portfolio review हमने क्या क्या actionables किए. तो first we set the agenda so that it's easier for you कि sir this is what we are going to cover. Set the investment objectives, so the expectations are set. why you should do this portfolio review periodic, that is also critical कि उसके benefits क्या है जो नहीं हो रहा होगा आज, कहीं पे भी नहीं होता है, पार्टनर क्लाइंट नहीं करते इंडिविजुअली, इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट या इतनी डिटेल में नहीं करते. देन फोर्थ पार्ट इज के पैरामीटर्स क्या कंसिडर किए. आफ्टर दैट देयर आर सर्टेन पॉइंट्स व्हिच वी कंसिडर्ड. उसमें क्या किया है कि एक्शनेबल है, तो सर 2% के नीचे वाला, दैट्स द फर्स्ट एक्शनेबल. नॉन रिकमेंडेड कैटेगरीज, दैट्स द सेकंड एक्शनेबल. थर्ड, show him the portfolio performance, show him our selection process. I think so. I gave a brief script on the selection process. You explain him that why selection process is critical by explaining the 25-year data. Then tell him कि सर हम क्या 3-4 parameters देखते हैं to select the scheme and how this is monitored on a regular basis. If you are not doing it, we should ask the questions, I think so, to the client कि सर आप कैसे देख रहे हैं, how have your portfolio been created, ये आपने कैसे बनाया है सर, ये अगर आपने आपके कोई पार्टनर ने, आपको कोई एडवाइजर ने बनाया है तो उसने क्या सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस यूज किया है, उसने क्या पैरामीटर्स देखे हैं. आस्क हिम दैट क्वेश्चन बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली ही शुड नो. हम अगर बता रहे हैं तो उसको भी पता होना चाहिए, राइट. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स द क्लाइंट विल नॉट नो. दैट्स व्हेन ही विल बाय इनटू व्हाट यू आर शोइंग द प्रोसेस. देन यू शो हिम द रिटर्न्स कि सर आपके पोर्टफोलियो ने क्या रिटर्न्स दिए हैं, वीजा वीज अगर आपने हमारे साथ इन्वेस्ट किया होता तो क्या रिटर्न्स होते थे, क्या रिस्क होता था, राइट. सो दैट्स वेयर यू कैन एक्सप्लेन कि सर रिस्क एंड रिटर्न क्या क्या ट्रेड ऑफ है. देन यू एक्सप्लेन द जर्नी कि सर हमारे साथ क्या जर्नी रही है ऑफ वेल्थ प्लस विच इज प्लान ए एंड प्लान बी. Again, you reiterate here the plan B because plan B is something which is critical. You would have covered in the first session, but यहाँ पे फिर से reiterate कर सकते हैं. Then the market cap allocation and the scheme and AMC diversification is something which you can highlight again कि वहां पे क्या actionable है. So see, after doing this, you can highlight certain actionables to him. One is कि यार categories, allocation, efficiency ratio जिसका कम है, ये 3 तो actionable हो गए. उसके अलावा सर जो भी schemes है, if you feel they are doing good, let's do a COB. So then that's the fourth thing which you can move. So this is how you can get a higher chunk of the client. That's the objective. I think so. This is a very important and very useful tool which partners, I think so, we should use extensively. Currently, we are not. What we are asking is basically 2 portfolio reviews per month. अगर आप 2 ढंग से अगर portfolio reviews अगर आप करके client से आप लेके आते हो, I think so it would really help you in getting more monies from the client. आपके existing clients भी जो होंगे जो आपके साथ कोई और platform पे कर रहे होंगे, and when you don't have the entire wealth, get the portfolio review. Even you would understand that how much percentage of the overall client's wealth is being managed by you. Is it being managed effectively or not? Right? This is how you actually get more monies from the client. So that's the overall thought process. What is efficiency ratio? Efficiency ratio is nothing but returns divided by the risk, which is standard deviation. So our portfolio efficiency ratio is 1.7%. Means for 1 unit of risk, I've delivered 1.7% ka return. If the client schemes are delivering less than this, then it is highlighted in red. If it is delivering better, then you highlighted, we've not highlighted that. तो वहां पे बोल सकते हो क्लाइंट को कि सर ये स्कीम्स आप रख लो जो ठीक ठाक कर रही है, इसको बाद में देखेंगे, इसको सीओ भी कर लेते हैं सर. बट जो नहीं दे रही है, आपने रिस्क ज्यादा लिया है और रिटर्न कम दे रहे हैं, या रिस्क सेम लिया है बट रिटर्न कम दे रहा है, सो देन वहां पे हम मूव कर सकते हैं. दैट्स वेयर द रिडम्पशन कैन हैपन, राइट. सो दैट्स वेयर द गैप शीट आल्सो कम्स इनटू पिक्चर. But this is the 3-4 actionables which we can do. So that's how you'll be able to get the overall wealth and handle more monies from the client. That's the overall objective of getting portfolio reviews. I hope I've given enough clarity. I'll just open it for questions for 10 minutes and then we'll cover the financial calculator. So any questions partners have, you can put it on the chat or the Q&A box. So I explain the efficiency ratio. Efficiency ratio is nothing but return divided by risk, Dipankar. What's the returns of the portfolio divided by the standard deviation? So it basically shows that for 1 unit of risk, how much returns the client's portfolio or the client scheme has delivered. Our efficiency ratio, as mentioned here, is 1.7, right? If it is higher than that, then probably the scheme is doing better than what we are doing, right? So we suggest that you hold it, you uska CO bhi kar lo. But अगर वो कम कर रहा है, so that's another actionable which you can add and tell him that ये क्यों मूव करना चाहिए. As I said, what's new? I think so. I've covered in detail. What's new? We've set the objective. We've set the agenda. The health card has been added here, and we have actually giving the actual portfolio returns of the client. मतलब it is not based on कि यार यही scheme अगर 3 साल तक hold की होती तो क्या returns आते थे. That was the format earlier. Now this is the actual returns which we are capturing what the client would have got vis-a-vis what we would have invested with us and what would have been the returns. How much time do we take to? So we generally the TAT is 2 working days to get the review done. So if you give it to me on say today, which is Wednesday, you should have it by Friday. The portfolio review. What details we need to take? So we just need to generate the cash statement. Sir, you take the email ID of the client and you ask him कि सर आपने आपके पोर्टफोलियो के लिए जो भी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स में आपने जो ईमेल आईडी दिया है that email ID, if that is common or if he has multiple email IDs, you just take those email IDs and you can generate the cash statement from the cash CAMS ka website. The cash statement is emailed to the client where you need to set a password. आप basic password रख सकते हो. You share that password with him and you tell the client कि सर आपको cash statement मुझे mail कर दो. That's the only requirement. If you just share the cash statement, then the review will something which can be done. Simple cash statement, which is consolidated account statement, which we need to generate from the CAMS website. I think so. If you don't know Vijay, probably the BDM would be able to help you in generating this. I think so. It's a very simple process, and the cash generally is comes to the client within 5 minutes most of the time. So it helps there. If he wants the client's investment to be done in a structured manner as per the roadmap made. So we don't. So Vasant, we have a very clear-cut mandate for the retirement plan. So we don't recommend hybrid or balance fund. So the retirement plan already the Excel is there and the presentation is there. I think so. If you use that, you will be able to manage the money in a structured manner. Specifically, if you use the calculator, the retirement calculator which we have, this is not for that. So I think so. So when the client has various varieties of insurance, so insurance policy is also something where we can just show the XIRR. We do that as well. If you give us the data on the number of policies which the client has, we can do the basic calculation of what the XIRR your insurance policy would have or is delivering vis-a-vis if you would have invested with us, what we would have delivered. What we've seen in the insurance policy is कि जब surrender करने जाता है तो surrender value जो आती है वो बहुत कम होती है. So that is one of the reasons the client doesn't take that decision. So we can actually do it, but we've not seen many clients actually moving the insurance policies because उसने डाला 100 रुपया है उसको मिलता है 30-40 रुपया. So it becomes very difficult for the client to take that decision कि यार नहीं यार 60 रुपया मैं लॉस नहीं करना चाहता. I will stay invested. So yeah, that's the problem. But otherwise we can do that insurance policies का basic. We can show him the XI. Cash actually covers most of the time it covers physical or demat. It covers both. कुछ कुछ cases में कभी कभी कुछ चीजें नहीं cover होती, but at least you'll get 75-80% of the portfolio. I think so. Even if you do that, it helps. Just a minute. Is the process of generating report online web based or only through RM? No, so this is not this is a manual process of creating the portfolio review, Jayesh. So it is not something which has been created online. So that's why I said it takes T plus 2 days. There are 25. Of course, there are. So this is one data point which we are showing, Anu. There's one more data point which is there in a selection process कि last अगर 12 साल में आपने हर बार टॉप स्कीम में इन्वेस्ट किया होता और अगर हर साल की वो स्कीम में इन्वेस्ट किया होता the returns ranges difference of 50%. So that also suggests that you should have a selection process in place. This is a simple data point which we are showing कि यार हर स्कीम सही नहीं है आपको सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस होना चाहिए. That's the objective there. So you can use that data point as well. Selection process की slide में है. You can use that as well. Uh, I hope Jayesh have clarified it. It takes 2 days stat hai for the select for the MF review. Could you explain plan? So see, plan B क्यों होना चाहिए? I covered. So everyone is a long term investor. सबको long term में अच्छे returns दिखते हैं, right? But market doesn't deliver every year. We've seen when the market delivers supernormal returns also. There are times when the market delivers flattish returns. There are times when the market delivers negative returns as well, right? So ये जो 14% average जो देखते हैं हम निफ्टी के returns, it is not every year 14%. So if you just remove the top 3 financial years out of the last 35 years का data, the returns drop from 14% to 6.5%. So क्या होता है कि सब लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर होते हैं, बट जैसे क्लासिक केस अगर अभी देख ले कि जिसने है ना अगर अगस्त सितंबर में इन्वेस्ट किया होता 25-26 हजार रुपए और मार्केट 22 हजार पे आ गया था ना, तो व्हेन यू टोल्ड हिम टू ऐड मोर मनी एट 22,000 द क्लाइंट्स वर स्केप्टिकल कि नहीं यार वेट करते हैं। 25 हजार पे उसको तेजी लग रही थी, वो लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर था, बट 22 हजार पे ही इज वेटिंग बिकॉज ही फील्स दैट नो बॉस मार्केट कैन कम फर्दर डाउन, इंडिया पाकिस्तान का वॉर हो जाएगा, ट्रंप ने और टैरिफ लगा दिया, तो देयर आर मल्टीपल थिंग्स ड्यू टू विच द क्लाइंट फील्स कि यार ये डालना चाहिए नहीं डालना चाहिए। दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस कि अगर लास्ट 5 साल में अगर अगले 5 साल में मार्केट ने अगर 5-6% का रिटर्न दिया तो निफ्टी म्यूचुअल फंड भी सिमिलर 6-7% का ही रिटर्न देगा। तो क्लाइंट बोलेगा यार इससे अच्छा तो मैंने एफडी कर ली होती, मुझे 60% तो ऐसे ही मिल जाता था, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट द मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स द क्लाइंट थिंक्स। सो लॉन्ग टर्म एवरीवन इज लॉन्ग टर्म, बट इफ द मार्केट डजंट डिलीवर फॉर नेक्स्ट 2-3 years ना, the patience doesn't hold. That's where you need a plan B, that even when the market doesn't perform, your portfolio में one component is still delivering you more than double-digit returns at marginal movements in Nifty. That's why plan B, so that your overall portfolio can work across all market cycles. That's why we have a plan A and plan B. Just to give you in a nutshell of why plan B is, uh, I think so. I don't have the name there, but I don't know. So, Vishal, I remember the scheme which has delivered 7%. There was some JM scheme. I don't remember the one which delivered 23%, but JM ka scheme was there, which was delivering 7% over the 25-year period. Mhm. So there's one question which is not related to the session. I'll cover this at the end, sir. I'll cover the financial calculator. We've created that, and that is also a tool which I think so you can use to get more monies from the client. I think so that's the objective. And I'll cover, I'll take the questions, the balance which are there, which are not related to the portfolio review uh, format. So just let me cover the financial calculator and then I covered the balance questions, right? So the other part was we had actually created a financial calculator of. So this is one question which we had actually from partners also, that if we can have a calculator where a client के multiple goals होते हैं, and if we want to show him कि यार हर goal के लिए how much he has to invest in, या क्या लमसम है, क्या एसआईपी है, अगर टॉप अप करता है तो कितनी लगेगी, क्या है। सो इफ वी कैन एक्चुअली शो दैट टू हिम, इट विल हेल्प यू इन गेटिंग द ओवरऑल वेल्थ ऑफ द क्लाइंट, बिकॉज क्लाइंट क्या है, एक वेल्थ के लिए गोल होता है, बट क्लाइंट के कुछ स्पेसिफिक गोल्स होते हैं कि मुझे गाड़ी लेनी है, या मुझे रिटायर होना है, या मुझे एजुकेशन, बच्चे के एजुकेशन के लिए चाहिए, या बच्चे के मैरिज के लिए चाहिए, yeah, any other goal which he has, right? There are multiple goals which a client has. So we thought, well, let's create a calculator, because of Excel is something which would be helpful, right? To actually show it to the client. आप दिखा सकते हो, the client can play around with this. See, by showing this and by playing around, I think so that's where the involvement of the client is much more. And client का एक बार involvement आएगा ना, then he will actually help giving you more information, and this information will help you actually get more monies from the client. I think so that's the objective. So that's another tool which we thought we could create. तो ये tool आपके लिए और helpful होगा to get more monies, to have more detailed discussion with the clients rather than just ऊपर ऊपर से हम अगर बात करते हैं, because client को आप जितने questions पूछोगे उतना ही आपको और information मिलेगी. Otherwise, if you don't ask him questions, the client generally don't give much information. But if you can use these tools to get more information from the client, then it would help you in getting this कि यार ये हम कहाँ से और पैसा किधर जा सकता है, कहाँ इन्वेस्ट हो सकता है, कैसे हो सकता है, क्या गोल है, कितना पैसे का रिक्वायरमेंट है, gives him more clarity as well. So that's where we had actually created this. Just give me. It created this financial calculator. I hope the screen is visible. I guess. Yeah. So, see, in this, basically the ones which are highlighted in yellow is something which the you have to fill. So आप यहाँ पे दिखा सकते हो client को कि सर आपका क्या goal है specifically. Let's take के यार दो तीन goal ले लेते हैं कि he has a goal for vehicle, then he has a goal for house property, and he has a goal for say vacation. अगर तीन goal है तो सर इसमें टेन्योर क्या है कि आपको गाड़ी कितने साल बाद लेनी है. लेट्स टेक ही वांट्स टू बाय अ कार आफ्टर 3 years. प्रॉपर्टी उसको से 7 साल में लेनी है. वेकेशन उसको 2 साल में जाना है. राइट. देन यू कैन मेंशन द गोल अमाउंट. सिर्फ अप्रोक्सीमेटली एज ऑफ डेट हाउ मच मनी डू यू थिंक यू रिक्वायर. मतलब आपको कितने लाख की गाड़ी लेनी है. तो से ही वांट्स टू बाय 25 लाख कार. तो फॉर दिस 25 लाख कार सर हाउ मच करंट लमसम और सेविंग्स यू हैव. तो देन दिस सी व्हाई दिस इंफॉर्मेशन वी टेक. सो यहां से अपने को भी पता चलता है कि यार क्लाइंट के पास अभी कितना पैसा है. इफ यू कैन मैनेज दिस मनी, get this money also and the future monies, then that's how the wealth will be created for the client also and for us as well, right? So यहाँ पे सर व्हीकल के लिए अगर क्लाइंट बोलता है नहीं 25 लाख है मेरे पास, आज 5 लाख ही है, मेरे को बता कितने की एसआईपी करनी होगी. दैट इज वन थिंग विच वी टेक. राइट. हाउस प्रॉपर्टी मुझे से 5 करोड़ का घर लेना एंड द क्लाइंट हैज से अप्रोक्सीमेटली आज बोलता है मेरे पास सेविंग्स में मेरे पास से 1.5 करोड़ है. राइट. Then vacation, he wants 10 lakh rupees, and currently say he has only 1 lakh rupees for this. Right? So here the expected returns are already put in. You can make these changes, but यहाँ पे already हमने कैलकुलेटर में डाला है. एंड यहाँ पे एक सजेशन दिया है कि यार शॉर्ट टर्म में तो आप आर्बिट्राज फंड्स या स्ट्रक्चर प्रोडक्ट में डाल सकते हो जो सेकेंडरी है. अगर 5 साल के ऊपर है तो देन इट इज अ मोर लॉन्ग टर्म. सो देन यू इन्वेस्ट इन द वेल्थ प्लस पोर्टफोलियो व्हिच इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ म्यूचुअल फंड्स एंड स्ट्रक्चर प्रोडक्ट्स. देयर द रिटर्न्स आर 14%. इन दिस आर्बिट्राज में हमने 6% लिया है. बेसिकली आप यहाँ पे चेंज कर सकते हो नंबर दैट यू वांट. यू फील नहीं मैं उसको स्ट्रक्चर प्रोडक्ट दे सकता हूँ जहाँ पे 12.5% का रिटर्न्स है. सो देन दिस कैलकुलेशन विल चेंज. राइट. और you want to put it 6%, आप 6% रखो. So this is something which you can play around. Partners, that's the thought कि आप जितना play करोगे इसके calculator के साथ with the client, you'll be able to get more information. See, in this case, I've just given a hypothetical scenario, but in this case, at least I know यार कि client के पास almost 1.65 crores का तो ये है, investment है. I think so. Let's take this 1 lakh. मेरे पास क्लाइंट का एटलीस्ट एक बैलेंस शीट तो समझ में आ रहा है यार क्लाइंट के पास 1.5 करोड़ है, 1.56 करोड़. राइट. सो आई कैन मैनेज दिस प्लस फ्यूचर में जो इन्वेस्टमेंट होगा बिकॉज दिस गोल्स वट एवर गोल्स आर उसके लिए इसको और पैसा डालना पड़ेगा तो वो पैसा भी मैं मैनेज कर सकता हूँ. तो दैट्स व्हाई आई कैन गेट मोर मनीज. So these are all enablers to actually manage the entire wealth of the client. Right? You ask him directly or you ask him through these routes. This will help you in opening up his balance sheet and getting more monies. Right? So यहाँ पे ये है इन्फ्लेशन रेट आप डाल सकते हो कि सर शायद आज की तारीख में आपको 25 लाख, जैसे प्रॉपर्टी में एक डालते हैं कि यार आज की तारीख में आपको लग रहा है सर 5 करोड़ में मिल रहा है, बट नहीं शायद 5% का इन्फ्लेशन ले लेता हो कि सर ये हर साल शायद ये इसकी आज 5 करोड़ है, 7 साल बाद शायद वैल्यू ज्यादा होगी. राइट. एंड आप कितना इंक्रीमेंट कर सकते हो परसेंटेज में, मतलब आप 5% हर साल इंक्रीज कर सकते हो क्या. तो यहाँ पे से लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल कि यार वो एसआईपी हर साल 5% बढ़ा सकता है. राइट. सो व्हाट इज द आउटपुट विच वी शो टू द क्लाइंट. यहाँ पे एक कैलकुलेशन दिखा रहे हैं सर कि 25 लाख है, आपने जो 5 लाख डाला था यहाँ पे हमने 5 lakhs का वैल्यू रखा था. राइट. दिस 5 lakhs will become 595. So after this, you will require another SIP of 48,400 or a lump sum of 21 lakhs to reach this 25 lakhs. Right? That's the first part. या हाउस प्रॉपर्टी में इट इज 7 करोड़ अगर आपकी प्रॉपर्टी वैल्यू हो जाएगी सर इन्फ्लेशन के साथ, जो आप 5 करोड़ सोच रहे हो, आपकी जो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स है वो जो ग्रो होगी, अगर आप मेरे पास मूव करते हो तो 14% से वो 3.75 हो जाएगी, तो उसके ऊपर सर आपको 2 लाख की एसआईपी और लगेगी पर मंथ। सेम थिंग फॉर द वेकेशन कि सर 10 lakhs है, योर करंट वैल्यू इज 1,12,000, तो SIP is needed of 34,900 and this SIP will keep on increasing, right? That is something which we'll show in the next slide, or a lump sum amount. So this gives you an idea कि client को कितना पैसा डालना पड़ेगा जिससे he'll be able to match or reach his goal. That's the overall thought of showing this. Then you can show him the cash flows कि सर ये अगर हम start करते हैं तो आपको vehicle के लिए कितनी SIP देनी है, हाउस प्रॉपर्टी के लिए कितनी है और वेकेशन के लिए कितनी है, right? So your vacation SIP is growing by 5%. So next year sir 36,600 हो जाएगी and so on and so forth. फिर ये व्हीकल की SIP जो है वो कितने साल तक चलेगी, तो वो 3 साल तक चलेगी सर, and then it will stop. Property will work till 7 years and vehicle will work till 2 years. This is the monthly SIP. So your SIP investments कितनी हो रहे हैं सर? This is your overall investment value. So here we've just considered the SIP amount which is investing, what would be the value at the end of each month? And we've taken this for a long period of time. So आप देख सकते हो. Of course, यहाँ पे जैसे ही उसका गोल खत्म हो जाएगा, we are assuming that he is taking out the money. So then the balance becomes zero. But this is how the value will, मतलब आपका हर month कितना invested amount है, कितना आपका value हो सकता है based on the weighted average returns which we mentioned in the first slide. So it gives him a scenario of where he will be at which month. अगर वो बोलता है नहीं यार 5 साल कहाँ होऊंगा मैं, तो आप दिखा सकते हो. एंड द डैशबोर्ड की सर ओवरऑल कितनी एसआईपी है एंड कितना अमाउंट आपको चाहिए. दिस इज जस्ट अ टैबुलर फॉर्म ऑफ शोइंग द डेटा कि आपका कितना एसआईपी किस चीज के लिए जा रहा है. 3 गोल्स है सर. दिस इज द एसआईपी अमाउंट विच इज रिक्वायर्ड टोटल फॉर विच गोल विच इज देयर. Just show it in a tabular form. See, the idea and the objective of this goals calculator is that clients के होते हैं goals, कोई specific goals होते हैं, so then you can show him this कि सर ये गोल के लिए अपने को क्या इन्वेस्ट करना है और कितना इन्वेस्ट करना है, राइट? टैग कर सकते हैं तो बेटर है, so then probably specific हो जाता है. That's why this calculator is there. I think so. Use this calculator to get more information, partners. I think so. This would help. Let the client play around with this. जितना वो प्ले अराउंड करेगा उतना ही आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलेगी एंड यू विल बी एबल टू गेट मोर मनीज. मतलब अगर वो यहाँ पे बोल रहा है कि 1.5 करोड़ है, तो ये 1.5 करोड़ कहाँ पे है सर? हाउ वी कैन मैनेज इट? लेट्स रिव्यू दैट पोर्टफोलियो. एफडी में है तो आप एफडी का बता सकते हो, म्यूचुअल फंड है, स्टॉक्स है, तो आप वो रिव्यू के लिए ले आ सकते हो. एंड देन वी कैन सजेस्ट हिम कि क्या करना चाहिए, राइट? रिटायरमेंट का प्लान ऑलरेडी वी हैव दैट, सो आई एम नॉट कवरिंग दैट. इवन इन वेल्थ सिप वी हैड कि यार लमसम अगर आपका सर क्लाइंट बोलता है नहीं मेरे पास एसआईपी करनी है, ऐसे 50,000 की एसआईपी करनी है एंड आई अज्यूम कि सर 14% का रिटर्न है, राइट? व्हाट विल बी द वैल्यू सर? सो यहाँ पे हम बता सकते हैं क्लाइंट को सर दैट आफ्टर 10 years you invested 60, your value would be 1.3. At 20 years you invested 1.2, your value is 6.6. After 30 years you invested 1.8, your value is 27 crores. So that's where the power of compounding comes in, right? आप देख रहे हो कि 10 years में 1.3 है, 30 years में it is 27 crores. This is what value of compounding is. This is what you can show to the client. यहाँ पे हम और भी प्ले कर सकते हैं. क्लाइंट बोलता नहीं मेरे पास अभी 10 लाख रुपया भी है, वो भी मैं अगर डालता हूँ और प्लस 50,000 की एसआईपी करता हूँ तो मेरी क्या वैल्यू होगी? सो देन दैट विल वैल्यू विल आल्सो रिफ्लेक्ट के 30 इयर्स में 34 करोड़ हो गया. क्लाइंट बोलता है कि नहीं यार मैं हर साल 5% से बढ़ा सकता हूँ एसआईपी. सो देन हिज इन्वेस्टेड वैल्यू इज हायर. नाउ इट इज 46 करोड़. सो प्ले अराउंड ऑन दिस नंबर्स. आई थिंक सो पार्टनर्स, यहाँ पे आप काफी चीजें दिखा सकते हो. दिस इज अ वेरी सिंपल नंबर कैलकुलेटर, राइट? सो लमसम प्लस एसआईपी इफ यू डू, वेयर यू वुड बी. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स ना क्लाइंट पूछता है कि ठीक है यार मैंने एसआईपी कर लूंगा. दिस इज हाउ यू कैन एक्चुअली गेट मोर एसआईपीज आल्सो फ्रॉम द क्लाइंट्स. बिकॉज काफी बार क्या होता है, स्मॉलर अमाउंट्स होते हैं बट देन इट शोज बिग वैल्यू इफ यू keep on doing it for 5 years, 10 years. That's where the client will also see the difference and even you will see the difference. As we had shown, I think so in Shikhar also, the client who's doing only lump sum and a client who's doing lump sum and SIP, almost 1.5 to 2% का alpha ज्यादा था, returns ज्यादा था for a client who's doing an SIP as well. So use this also to get more monies, to make the client understand and play around. सी क्लाइंट विल हैव मनी, एसआईपी के लिए भी पैसा होता है क्लाइंट के पास, बट अगर हम उसको कुछ दिखा सकते हैं देन इट वुड हेल्प, अदरवाइज इट वुड मतलब वो नहीं आएगा पैसा, या शायद क्लाइंट नहीं सोचेगा। दिस इज अ कैश फ्लो अगेन कि क्या वैल्यू होगी पर मंथ की, बट दिस इज अनदर कैलकुलेटर पार्ट ओनली विच वी क्रिएटेड सिमिलर टू अ गोल, बट यहाँ पे कोई गोल स्पेसिफिक नहीं है, वहां पे आप गोल स्पेसिफिक दिखा सकते हो। यहाँ पे हमने ओपन रखा था कि यार यू कैन जस्ट शो लमसम प्लस एसआईपी, तो व्हाट वुड बी द वैल्यू इन दिस। So that's on the financial goal calculator. Ki how you can use this. See, this is more of taking information. Take this information, keep it with you, save करो सर। जब भी हम नेक्स्ट रिव्यू भी करेंगे क्लाइंट्स के साथ, we can actually show him, अगर उसने पैसा नहीं दिया है तो सर ये आपने गोल सोचा था, रखा था, उस पे क्या हुआ है, व्हाट हैव यू डन विद द वैल्यू ऑफ दैट, अपने इन्वेस्ट लमसम का क्या किया है। आई थिंक सो वो सब चीजें हम बात कर सकते हैं क्लाइंट्स के साथ। वी कैन शो इट टू हिम, वी कैन एक्सप्लेन दैट टू हिम, that would help. So that's the calculator. In short, we had actually, I think so, pushed it. हमने रिलीज किए थे, आई थिंक सो 15 दिन हो गए हैं। आई थिंक सम पार्टनर्स हैव स्टार्टेड यूजिंग इट, बट यूज दिस पार्टनर, आई थिंक सो यू विल गेट मोर information, and that's how you'll be able to engage more with the client. The more you engage with the client, you more involve him. I think so that's how you'll be able to manage more monies of him. I think so that's the more critical part. Another thing which I actually wanted to highlight, which I just forgot, is कि what we had done is we had done one more thing कि last 2 साल में April 23 till March 25 हमने जो भी पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यूज किए हैं, पार्टनर्स आपने जो भी पोर्टफोलियोज रिव्यू किए हैं, हमने क्या किया है कि यार उस पोर्टफोलियो की जो वैल्यू थी जिस दिन हमारे पास आया था, उसके बाद 31 मई तक हमारे मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो ने क्या रिटर्न दिया है, निफ्टी ने क्या रिटर्न दिया है। तो व्हाट वी शोइंग कि यार हमने निफ्टी को कितने परसेंट से बीट किया है। यू कैन गो बैक अगेन टू योर क्लाइंट जिसका हमने रिव्यू किया था, जहां पे क्लाइंट ने कन्वर्ट नहीं हुए हैं, हम जा सकते हैं उनके पास और पूछ सकते हैं कि सर अगर आपने आपका उस दिन पोर्टफोलियो हमको अगर ट्रांसफर किया होता तो दिस वुड हैव बीन द वैल्यू। यू टेल मी सर व्हाट इज द वैल्यू ऑफ योर पोर्टफोलियो टुडे। सो एटलीस्ट आपको एक और अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलेगी टू गेट द पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू अगेन, और टू टेल हिम सर दैट व्हाट योर पोर्टफोलियो इज डूइंग एंड वर्सेस माय पोर्टफोलियो। उसने अगर और इन्वेस्ट किया है तो देन वी कैन गेट द पोर्टफोलियो टू रिव्यू एंड गिव इट अगेन अ शॉट ऑफ एक्सप्लेनिंग हिम कि सर हम क्या कर रहे हैं। दैट्स वेयर यू कैन ऐड मोर वैल्यू एंड गेट मोर मनीज। जहां पे क्लाइंट ने इन्वेस्ट भी किया है वहां पे भी हम जा सकते हैं वापस और बता सकते हैं कि सर ये हमने 40% या 30% या 20% ही पोर्टफोलियो लाया था, वी कुडंट गेट द एंटायर पोर्टफोलियो, लेट्स रिव्यू द बैलेंस पोर्टफोलियो एंड गेट दैट मनी बैक, राइट। सो दैट इज द ऑब्जेक्टिव। सी दिस इज वन मोर इनेबलर व्हिच वी हैव बीन प्रोवाइडिंग, कि आपके पास एक टॉकिंग पॉइंट होगा फिर से क्लाइंट के पास जाने के लिए कि सर हमने रिव्यू किया था ऑन दिस डेट, राइट, वी इन्वेस्टेड, वी डिडंट इन्वेस्ट, वी इन्वेस्टेड बट वी पार्टली इन्वेस्टेड, तो बाकी के पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू कर लेते हैं सर। वी डिडंट इन्वेस्ट ओनली, तो कुछ नहीं सर, फिर से रिव्यू करते हैं। आपने उसके बाद रिव्यू किया कि नहीं किया, आपके पोर्टफोलियो आपके एडवाइजर ने कुछ चेंजेस किए कि नहीं किए, मार्केट में इतने चेंजेस हो गए, व्हाट डिड यू डू। सो दिस इज वेयर यू कैन ऐड मोर वैल्यू एंड गेट दैट क्लाइंट अगेन। सी इट इज नॉट कि यार एक बार हमने पोर्टफोलियो रिव्यू कर लिया और वो कन्वर्ट होगा, ऐसा कोई गारंटी तो नहीं है, राइट। बट इफ यू कीप ऑन डूइंग दिस कंटिन्यूसली एंड यू स्टे इन टच विद द क्लाइंट, I think so that's where you'll be able to get more monies and get more leads as well. So that data point is also something which we've shared with the BDM. I think so BDM would have shared also with the partners. अगर नहीं हुआ है तो आप एक बार प्लीज आपके पार्टनर आपके BDM से एक बार बात करो. They'll be able to give you that data. That's also one more data point which you can use to get your older clients to pitch them again. See, as I said, I'll just reiterate again and I'll take the questions. Okay, what I said at the start is that if you just do 2 portfolio reviews, partners, you have a potential of getting 4 crores of mobilization and another 5 crores of COB, right? If you get the right ticket size, and most of the time we've seen the ticket size is good. Portfolio clients के छोटे नहीं होते, होते हैं बड़े portfolios होते हैं, 50 लाख 60 लाख 1 करोड़ 1.5 करोड़ 2 करोड़ के भी portfolios कितने हैं clients के, right? If we get this review, we pitch him and we keep on constantly be in touch with him, I think so this mobilization number which I'm saying is something which is very easily achievable. I have not taken any 100% conversions. I've taken a very conservative number, right? There are some partners who have had actually a better conversion rate as well, right? If you use all our notes, हम जो भी notes share कर रहे हैं, knowledge share कर रहे हैं, if we start using that and we give that information to the client, I think so that is where you'll be able to add more value to the client as well. You'll be able to get more monies. So that was on the review part. I'll just move to the questions. So many distributors have come up with product baskets where you can invest with a single check. So Rajesh, even with Anand you can invest with a single check. You don't need to give 14 checks. It is just one check in the name of ICCL for mutual funds, and the investment will happen. So the client doesn't need to give multiple checks. Only for structure product, the client has to give a separate check because the structure product is not part of the mutual fund scheme, right? And the beneficiary there is Anand Rathi. So that's why there's a separate check for structure product. But for mutual fund, it is the same. It is one single check of in the name of ICCL. Can we set these specific goals in client app? Currently, it is not there in the client app, Chetan, and it's not in the plan as well in the client app. That's why we've done this in the calculator separately. See, client app, there are multiple. We've had some hindrances because it's very difficult to bifurcate because we don't have different schemes for different goals, right? It would be a common goal. So then bifurcating which scheme for vehicle and which scheme for house property and which scheme for retirement would be very difficult to bifurcate, right? That's why on the app currently it is not there and it's not in pipeline as well. We had even a thought, but it didn't work out. Currently, it's not there. We'll still go back and check if something can be worked out in the app best. I think so it works better, but currently that's why we created an Excel so that it's at least something which we have, which we can go back and discuss with the client. So that's on the app. What is the rate at which the current saving is compounded to project the future value of the current savings? So in this, Rituraj, basically what we've shown here is the rate at which the portfolio is growing. So if it's less than 3 years, then we've considered a return of 6%. So the current saving is compounding at that rate. If it is 14%, if it's more than 5 years, then the current saving is also getting compounded at 14%. My assumption is that was that money is something which will move to me. So then I'll be able to deliver that 14%. So that's the assumption there. I hope I've clarified. I think so. I discussed this with Rohit also. He'll be able to explain you more in detail. We had this discussion. So it is the same rate, which is the rate at which the portfolio expected returns are. Retirement plan, Sandeep, is there in this that how much money you require for your retirement, that is there in the goals calculator. I didn't cover that. But there are multiple goals. So retirement goal is also there that if you want to retire after say 10 years or 15 years and you want 5 crores, how much should I invest this? That is there. It is also there in the retirement calculator. There is a corpus creation sheet which is there in the retirement plan as well. I think so. You can use both, either this or that, to give you more details. See, most of the times, client doesn't know what amount I require for retirement. So there, I think so. The retirement corpus planning calculator is there in the retirement plan. I'll tell Arifa, she'll explain you. But वहाँ पे there is one sheet which gives you that details that what is my current expense and at what rate it is expected to grow. So what should be my expected outflow at retirement. So what should be the corpus. That is there in the app also and is there in the Excel as well. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Retirement corpus, which eventually gets converted to SWP. Absolutely. Any more questions, partners? You can put it on the chat or the Q&A box, and I'm happy to take them. So yes, Vishal's suggestion definitely taken. We'll have to discuss with the tech team that if we can actually have this. Let me check on this, Vishal. Valid suggestion. Let me check if we can actually build this. Thanks for that. So there are no further questions. So thank you, partners, for patiently listening. We discussed two things, uh, which is yeah. So there is one more question. I'll just take this. The input cell for growth rate of current savings is required when the amount is already invested in things like EPF. So see, basically, this is not a specific calculator for this. So if you have the EPF number, then you can change the returns for that specifically. That if the client has EPF and is probably going to use that money for retirement, then we can change the return number there, sir. Instead of say 14%, you do a weighted average and have a 12% or a 10%, right? And that's how you can use that calculator. Because as I said, the returns, the input cell for the returns is also something which you can put in. आप डाल सकते हो वहाँ पे number. So then you can use that as well for if the client has say EPF, which is going to use for a house property, right? And he can't redeem that, then you can change that number there specifically for that goal. तो वहां पे वो reflect हो जाएगा and the calculation will be based on that. So it is not a fixed number which we've taken. We've taken the number at which the portfolio is expected to grow. So you can change that number there, Rituraj. So yes, Anand, we have the mobile app for clients. We would have the mobile app for partners as well. That's the next one in pipeline. We have the partner dashboard, which would come up shortly. I think so. That's the next thing which would be there within the next week or fortnight. I think so. Max, it's there in the testing. So that is the first part which would come. That would give a lot of insights also for you as a partner on your business. That where is the opportunity. After that, probably we'll have the partner app taken up. Yeah. So new model portfolio, as I said at the start, the review has started. Probably max by September, the new model portfolio will be out. Currently, there is no change. It's the same 14 schemes which we've been recommending. So there was, I think, so one question on gold and silver. So see, gold and silver, I think so. There was a video also which was shared of Sujan. So see, gold as it is, what we have currently in India is uh, gold allocation to equity is almost 5 times in India, right? That's the first part. So already we have allocation in gold. Now, second is gold. If you look in pockets for the last 3 years, I think so the returns are better than equity. But if you look at the rolling returns of gold vis-a-vis equity, equity has delivered 82% of the times higher returns than gold. So gold and equity is like gold. Equity has delivered almost 4 times better returns than gold. That's the first part. So that's the major reason that's why we don't recommend gold as such. Gold uh, have been more steady returns. Can be an allocation or an alternative to debt, but not an alternative to equity. We feel equity debt comparatively gives you much more stability and steadiness compared to gold because gold still has a higher standard deviation, almost equity like standard deviation. Debt doesn't have that standard deviation, right? So steady and safety chahiye, so debt is a better option compared to gold. That's our view. Return wise, gold, see, major two consumers, one is jewelry and one is the central banks. Jewelry segment with the high prices, the demand is something which, of course, is not up to the market, it's not there, right? And demand supply नहीं होगा तो price नहीं increase होने वाला है. Central banks to an extent have bought in the last year, right? But don't know how much that would continue. India specifically, the rupee depreciation has helped in giving returns. Dollar terms from 2011 till 2020 to 23 dollar terms, gold returns was zero. तो जो भी रिटर्न्स दिया है वो लास्ट 3 साल में ही दिया है, which has moved from 2,100 to almost $3,000 and So gold as an asset class, we don't feel that it makes sense in adding it to the overall portfolio. Equity gives you much more flexibility and much more clarity, I think so, where there is much more fundamentals. I think so. Gold, uh, of course, due to hedging and speculation, also is something which helps the price moves. So that's one of the reasons we don't recommend gold. And silver is again, see, any industry or any asset class which I want to recommend, there has to be more fundamentals to it. I think so. That's where we have a more disconnect in gold and silver. I think that was one question which I hadn't covered, so but I'll just cover that. I hope I've given you some more points, sir. So on that note, thanks partners for patiently listening. Please use this portfolio review. I think so. 2 reviews per month can easily help you garner around 8 to 9 crores, which is easily possible. 2 reviews per month is something which I think so everyone can do. So kindly use this tool and the financial calculator to engage more with your clients and help him get more, uh, help him on his wealth creation journey as well. So thank you, partners, and have a great day. Yep.